The cockpit is in chaos. The pilots are fighting for control of the plane while passengers are screaming in the background. Alarms blare as they desperately try to pull the nose of the plane up, but something is working against them. A hidden system pushes it down, again and again, down towards the sea. The noise builds, and then just silence. This was the second Boeing 737 MAX to fall out of the sky in 5 months. 2 crashes, 346 people gone. And for the first time, the world began to ask, what happened to Boeing? This once revered company was now entangled in a web of ambition, deceit, and disaster. To truly understand how this happened, we need to go back in time. Boeing began in 1916 building seaplanes out of a boathouse in Seattle. It grew fast and helped build America's Air Force in World War II and then shaped the golden age of commercial flight. By the late 20th century, it was more than just a company. Boeing was aviation. Its planes were trusted by pilots and admired by passengers. But in 1997, everything started to change. That year, Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas, another major aerospace player. Officially, it was a merger, but insiders say McDonnell Douglas didn't just join Boeing, it overtook it. And slowly, the culture began to shift. Engineers who once held the reins were sidelined. Financial targets and shareholder expectations were prioritized over sound science. The focus turned from precision to profit. Then came a threat from across the Atlantic. Airbus launched the A320neo, a fuel-efficient jet that airlines loved. Boeing needed to respond, and fast. Instead of building something new, they took a shortcut. They modified the 737, a design first introduced in the 1960s, and turned it into something new. They called it the 737 MAX. But there was a problem. The MAX's new engines were larger and mounted differently, higher and farther forward. That changed how the plane behaved in flight, especially during steep climbs. To fix this, Boeing added a new flight control feature called MCAS, short for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. Its job was to push the nose of the plane down if it sensed the aircraft climbing too sharply. On paper, MCAS made sense. It was designed to help the MAX fly more like previous 737s so the pilots wouldn't need retraining. But there was a catch. MCAS relied on just one sensor to know when to activate, and if that sensor was wrong, so was MCAS. And that's exactly what happened. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta. Minutes later, a faulty sensor incorrectly told MCAS the plane was climbing too steeply. So the system did what it was built to do. It forced the nose down. The pilots fought back, they pulled up, and MCAS triggered again and again and again. 21 separate times, the system pushed the aircraft towards the ocean until the pilots lost control. The plane slammed into the Java Sea. 189 people died. It was the worst crash in Lion Air's history. And Boeing, they said it was pilot error. The plane wasn't grounded properly, that it was completely safe. But just 5 months later, it happened again. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 took off from Addis Ababa. 6 minutes in, the same nightmare unfolded. The nose started dipping. MCAS had activated. The pilots tried to override it. They pulled back on the controls, they followed the emergency checklist, but the system kept forcing the plane down. And then, impact. Everyone on board, 157 people, gone in an instant. 2 crashes, 346 lives, same plane, same software, same deadly flaw. Only now, Boeing couldn't deflect the blame. Investigators around the world were pointing to MCAS, a system most pilots didn't even know existed, and a fix for a design problem the public had never been told about. And families were demanding answers. Internal emails and chat logs began to surface. Test pilots had raised concerns, and engineers had warned about flaws. One employee even wrote, "The airplane is designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys." And yet, despite the warnings, Boeing pushed forward. Why? To avoid delays. to avoid the cost of retraining pilots to protect their timeline and their stock price. Eventually, the 737 MAX was grounded, not just in the US, but everywhere. Airlines canceled order, Boeing lost billions, and the company's reputation began to fall faster than any aircraft. But the crash reports didn't just implicate Boeing. They had exposed a deeper issue. Regulators had failed too. The FAA, the agency meant to ensure flight safety, had let Boeing certify much of the MAX themselves. The watchdog had been sleeping. While Boeing was cutting corners, the people meant to hold them accountable looked the other way, and a system designed to protect the passengers had failed them. Then came COVID. Flights were grounded, demand for flights vanished overnight. Boeing halted production, laid off workers, and tried to survive the storm. Eventually, the 737 MAX returned to the skies. The software was patched, pilots were retrained, and slowly, the fleet was cleared for flight. But something had changed. Passengers were hesitant, pilots were cautious, and every time a 737 MAX took off, a shadow followed it. The name Boeing no longer guaranteed confidence. It triggered questions. And then in 2025, another headline. An Air India 787 Dreamliner, just minutes after takeoff from Ahmedabad, plummeted from the sky. It tore through a crowded medical college campus, more than 240 lives lost that day and 30 more on the ground. Students, teachers, and families, all gone. One survivor, pulled from the wreckage, whispered the same words again and again. "We weren't in the air for long." The investigation is ongoing, but around the world people are asking, how many more warnings do we need? But really, this was never just about one crash or even one company. It's about what happens when profit gets prioritized over processes, when systems meant to protect us are reshaped to serve financial goals. And it's not just aviation. We're seeing this trend unfold across the board. Industries once built on service, craft, and care are now restructured around efficiency and returns. This isn't just a flaw in the system, but a symptom of a global shift where quality is being sacrificed in the name of financial gain. Everything seems fine on the surface until every now and then a crack appears that becomes too big to ignore. This is the Boeing reckoning.